enters the ring. Morpheus Entertainment.
Hey you guys, Morpheus here. This is part 2, Spells and Abilities of the Warlock Demonology PvP guide for 5.4.7. Welcome. Before we start, I want to say that if you missed part 1, you can always go to my channel and just play the playlist that is at the top of the channel. It's easy to find, not to miss. So if you want to watch that, then go to my channel. Otherwise you can just skip it if you're already a more advanced Demonolog and that has a bit more skills. Anyways, something else I want to say is a little side note on the race you can pick for Demo. I think Orc or Undead are both great picks. However, I went Orc for the extra damage in burst and 1% more pet damage, as well as stun duration decrease that he has. Undead is good because he looks great and he can heal himself a little bit, and also he can of course trinket fears and charms with Will of the Forsaken, so that's also a really good option. The extra spell power that the Orc has is not a game-changing ability or something, but it does help you out in burst, and that's what it's all about with Demo. And also the increased pet damage, you know, it adds up. Anyways, let's go over the buffs and abilities. First you see Dark Intent, the top left one in the first column. Dark Intent is something you want to keep up at all costs. You can easily notice that it gets dispelled or something if your HP drops to normal amount of HP, unbuffed HP. So you can quickly see it, and then you need to rebuff it again, because it gives not only extra HP but also more spell power, so more damage. And then you see the 3 Grimoires, and I want to have a discussion about this, because I used to go with Grimoire of Sacrifice. And there is one trick you can still do with Grimoire of Sacrifice that makes it maybe a bit viable. That is summoning a Fel Hunter, for example, then silencing someone with it, then sacking it, sacrificing it, so you gain one of his abilities, and you can silence yourself again, and then you can instant resummon thanks to Demonic Rebirth. You can instant resummon a new pet, for example a Felguard, and then stun him. And it probably shouldn't be on cooldown, so you can just do a triple CC on your target. However, although it increases your damage, because Grimoire of Sacrifice, the middle talent that you see there, the middle book, it increases your damage by 25%, I believe. It's not for all spells, but for a lot of spells. It does increase your damage, but I don't know. I think it's not really worth it, since 2 demons, for example, do more damage than the added 25% to your own damage. I've tested it a couple of times, and I think it's not worth it anymore. Also, 2 demons beside you give more fury generation. Anyways, let's go to the left book, Grimoire of Supremacy. That gives you stronger demons, and I will cover that later. And these have stronger abilities, more HP. You know, they're just stronger in general. This is also still viable, especially if you go for the Guard, the upgraded Felguard, which has a minus 25% healing debuff on the target you're going on, and he of course has a stun and a blade storm. So I would then pick a Guard, unless you really need a silence. So yeah, that might be viable, but it's also not the best, not the most damage, and it's also not the most fury generation. So let's go to the right book again, Grimoire of Service. This gives you a second demon to fight for you for 20 seconds in your burst. Well, you use it in your burst, it's not automatically in your burst, but you use it in your burst anyways. And this does a lot of extra damage. And I've tested it a lot, as I said before, and this always for me did the most damage and generated a lot of demonic fury. Meaning that you can actually burst with just 200 demonic fury, and that's enough to burst someone down. So I will cover this a bit more later in the more advanced guides and stuff, and then I will say how to burst never, and you know, whatever, and I will cover it again a little bit. So let's just continue. We see other buffs and abilities, meta and tank form. Metamorphosis is the left one, increases your damage by a lot. It's normally around 80% damage increase, but if you pop some other cooldowns with that, then it can even mean that it increases your damage by 180% or something like that. The tank form can only be unlocked with the glyph demon hunting, and it's called the Dark Apotheosis. That's the tank form. And in both meta and tank form you get a different set of abilities. Some abilities change, some stay the same, and also the whole class mechanic changes. So in meta your normal spells now cost Demonic Fury to use instead of generate Demonic Fury to use, and in tank form they may generate or may cost Demonic Fury depending on what spell you use. Let's look at the different pets. So we have the left one, that's the Felguard, then we have the Fel Hunter, the Imp, the Succubus, and the Void Walker. The Void Walker is the most tanky guy. Succubus is really nice if you want to get seductions on a target, CC, which is really annoying. The Imp is great to dispel, for example dispel a healer if he's trapped. He's really squishy though, so I don't take him as my main pet, as he only has like 150k HP, and with full gear probably 200k HP. So I don't take him because they can kill him easily, and that's why I normally run with, as main pet, I run with Felguard, because he has the most HP and he has a nice stun that I can do on anyone from a distance. And otherwise Fel Hunter is also a good pick in my opinion, although that one is also more squishy. And then you see the imps on the right, the glyph. You need to get the glyph Imp Swarm, and that's really a must have. You can't play demon without it, demonology without it, I would say, so get that one. And it gives you 4 extra imps to fight for you in your burst, which does a lot of damage if you combine it with the rest of your cooldowns. Now let's look at the Grimoire of Supremacy, or in other words Ghost subpets. We see Refguard, Observer, Fel Imp, I don't know the name anymore, Shavira or something, and Void Lord. I generally don't roll with Grimoire of Supremacy, but it still has its purpose, and depending on what you're playing with, or if you go for more sustained DPS, then you could pick one of these pets. I don't go for sustained DPS, I go for full burst, so I don't deal with these pets because I go for Grimoire of Service once again. Then you see the other pets down there. You can only use them in BGs in open world PvP every 10 minutes, the Infernal and the Doom Guard or something, yeah, and the upgraded versions of those. But yeah, like I said, I don't really use them. Then we go to dots, curses, and kind of hybrid dots plus instance. So we see Corruption, which is our main dot, and then on the right, actually on the far right, we see Curse of Elements. What I normally do is get Elements and Corruption on the target, and that's a really good combination. And then you see Hand of Gul'dan, the purple thing, the second thing. That is like a meteor coming from the sky, doing instant damage as well as applying quite a short dot on the target. This is your main damage spell as of now. It does a quite huge amount of damage, especially if you pop all your cooldowns with that. And then we see Curse of Elements, which or Curse of Enfeeblement, sorry, which increases cast time and also causes less damage done for the target it's on. And then the upgraded versions of those spells, if you go into Metamorphosis, you get Doom. You can also apply Doom at the same time as you can apply Corruption. The only disadvantage is that it can dispel instantly without any punishment, and the damage is not that good. Still, it helps out. So if you can, just apply all dots including Doom, and it takes away a nice amount of damage. Then we see Chaos Wave. I used to roll with Chaos Wave, bursting, and then 2 Chaos Waves used to do a lot of damage. However, as I will also cover this in the more advanced guide, I now go with 2 times Hand of Gul'dan instead of a Chaos Wave or 2, because Chaos Wave, I don't know, it just, the damage is not that great. Only if it crits it's viable, but it doesn't crit always. Actually, it rarely crits, but if it does, it's nice. Still, it's useful, but more in a different way. You don't always use it. You normally go for Hand of Gul'dan, but the thing about Chaos Wave is that it's counted as physical damage and not as magical damage. So if the DK, for example, pops Anti-Magic Shield, or a rogue pops Cloak of Shadows, then you, instead of Hand of Gul'daning them, because you will just miss and it gets absorbed, whatever, you just do 2 Chaos Waves, because they will go through AMS, for example, Anti-Magic Shield, which is really, really nice. And then you see the upgraded versions of the curses. These will just apply a whole group if you stand near them or whatever. Then we see the spammers, the fillers, in Kata, or in caster and in meta form and in tank form. First of all, Shadow Bolt. Shadow Bolt you generally want to use if you have time to cast and if you have time to cast and if no one is on you and can interrupt you. But it's a very long cast time. Also, if you have low mana, then you also use it. Then we see Fel Flame. This is my most used spell probably. I just spam Fel Flame all the time, and that's because the damage is really good. It's an instant, so no one can lock you out of school. It's really good, and but it costs a lot of mana, so you might need to life tap a lot in the fight if you use too many Fel Flames. Then we see Hellfire. I don't use Hellfire anymore that much because it's really expensive to use Fury wise if you go into meta and use it, because it becomes Immolation Aura. It's just nice to try to get people out of stealth, I would say, and otherwise it doesn't do enough damage. Also, it's nice to get your trinket procced, for example, because you also do damage on yourself. If you don't know, it's an AoE fire spell, so you do fire damage in a whole group around you, but it also does damage on yourself. So if you want to get your trinket procced, then you can do it on yourself. And every hit that it does on yourself has a chance of proccing your trinket. Then we see Soulfire. I don't use Soulfire at all actually. If you get a proc so the cast time is reduced, I sometimes use it if no one is on me and I can cast Soulfire freely outside of my burst. I never do it in my burst. Outside of my burst, it's kind of a replacement of Shadow Bolt because it's slightly better than Shadow Bolt. So if I'm out of mana or something, then I just Soulfire, or out of mana if I don't have enough mana for Fel Flame anymore, you know. Yeah, and then we see Drain Life. I also don't use this a lot because it doesn't heal that much and it doesn't do damage. Or well, it does do damage, but not enough. It heals you for a little bit, but it's just not viable in my opinion. It can be viable if you spec Harvest Life plus, you know, the glyph. Then it becomes viable, but I still like Dark Generation more. But this is more advanced stuff. And then we see the meta spells. Touch of Chaos, the left one. Then we see Void Ray, the improved Fel Flame, and Immolation Aura. Well, the two last ones I don't use at all. I think they're rubbish, especially the middle talent. Void Ray, I think you can just leave it out your... you just shouldn't use it in my opinion. Immolation Aura can be useful, depends on what situation. For example, bursting in an RPG or in a BG or World PvP can be really fun. But I think you do need to take Mineral's Fury then to increase its damage and its range. I only think then it's viable, and otherwise it's not really viable. And then we see on the left side Touch of Chaos. This is your main spam spell in burst. If you've done all your stuff to set up your burst, then you kind of spam this spell, as it does a large amount of damage, but it costs Fury to use. And then if you go in tank form, you can actually get the same thing. I think it has a bit of shorter range, it seems, but instead it generates Fury instead of costs Fury, so that's really nice. So let me mention again that this part is really about explaining the spells and abilities and when to use them or what not. Rotations, spell priorities, you know, that's still coming up in the next part of the guide, although I do cover it a little bit here and there. But I think it's really useful to learn these spells individually and, you know, when or when not to use them. So like I said, it's kind of a mix of advanced stuff and basic stuff. Anyways, let's look at the CC spells and other pet spells we have. First of all, Fear in the top left corner. Just I think a 1.7 cast time or 1.8 second cast time, and it fears the enemy for 7 seconds. They run around in circles. Whoa! And then we have Mortal Coil, which is an instant cast. CC, it counts as a Horrify instead of a Fear, so it doesn't DR with Fear, diminishing return. You can Google it if you don't know what that means. But basically it means that every time you fear someone it gets decreased. So first it's like 7-8 seconds, then it's a half of that, so it's like 4 seconds or something. And then it's only like 2.5 seconds or 1 second, you know, it becomes really, really short if you keep fearing someone, and eventually in the fourth fear you don't fear him, he's evil, become immune, and you need to wait for the fear DR to go off as it's called, and then you can fear him again. Anyways, that's kind of a basic thing about World of Warcraft, but if you don't know it, then you should Google it and find more out about it. Then the third ability is an AoE fear, an instant fear, so it's instant, doesn't cost any time to cast, and it's called Howl of Terror. This is now baseline spell, already some time for now, and it's a really great ability, and also an AoE fear, so you can fear multiple targets with this. It's really great. Also, it's great to line it up in your burst as a combination of locking someone down, you know. So you could start with a fear and then burst, and then a mortal coil, and then a stun, and then an AoE fear, and then another stun. You know, it just keeps going like that, and you can really CC someone to death. Then we see Command Demon. This is something else, depending on what pet you have. I will go into that later. And then we see Carrion Swarm, which is a knockback. Great to knock players off an edge in an arena or in a BG, but it's also great to interrupt cast. For example, if someone casting, then you can knock them back and it will interrupt the cast, which is just magnificent. But it's really great also if a warrior is on you, to do it defensively, to knock the warrior back, then leap forward, for example, and you're out of danger for like another second before he charges you again, or grips you if he's in a DK or something. Anyways, and then we see Banish, which is a CC you can only do on demons. But for example, if you're playing against an affliction lock, because you never meet another lock in arena, then you could banish their pet, and it's like a fear but for pets, so he can't do anything with his pet for like you know, a large amount of seconds, and you're fine, you're like super happy. Okay, then let's go to the pet CCs, and if you pressure Command Demon, then it will activate one of these things. Yeah, actually no, I'm not correct. Command Demon is slightly different. Command Demon will either activate a CC or another ability of the pet. I will go into that later again, it's complex. Let's just go over the CCs first of the pets, because you can bind them or make a macro for them, so you don't need to click it. Okay. First of all, we have Seduction, which is a really nice. It actually DRs with fear. I don't use it as Demonology, but it can still be nice in BGs for 1vx fights or something. If you want to get this, it's the Succubus pet that has it. Just test it out on a target dummy and you will see what it does, or on the player. Then you have Disarm. This is caused by the Void Lord. And then we see Silence by the Fel Hunter, which is really nice. Then we see the Stun of the Felguard, and then we see the Dispel Magic from the Imp. So that's really nice. And then if we go to the bottom, we see the thing that you get if you would sack it, if you would use Grimoire of Sacrifice. And then your Command Demon becomes that ability. So you get a knockback from Succubus if you sacrifice that. If you sacrifice Void Lord, you will get extra HP, 20% extra HP with Shadow Ward Bulwark or something. Shadow Ward Bulwark, yeah. You will also get a silence if you sack the Fel Hunter, so you have like a double silence. You will get a charge from sacking Felguard, which is kind of nice, you know, seeing a demon charge up to you. It's kind of weird. I never use it, but you know, whatever. If you want to try it out, then you can try it out. And you will get a slight heal from the Imp if you sack it. So yeah, let's go all the way to the right, to the bottom, the other spell section. You see there what is called again, Blade Storm. So your Command Demon, if you don't sack your Felguard, your Command Demon will actually be the Fel Storm, the Blade Storm of your pet. So don't think that you will get the Axtos as a Command Demon. I have a separate macro for my Axtos, and my Command Demon is the Blade Storm. I sometimes Blade Storm, although I don't think the damage from Blade Storm is that well. It's normally only used if you're in a group, or there are like more than 2 people at least, and then the Blade Storm does more damage than his normal abilities in my opinion. But anyways, so that's a side note on that. Then let's go back again to the left side, burst cooldowns to use. We see Dark Soul there, yeah, your Trinket, my Racial from Orc, and my Profession ability from Herbalism. Now Herbalism gives you extra haste, like 3k extra haste I believe, which is always helpful. Haste is not the main stat for Demo, but it still helps out, you know, with dot sticks and everything. Then the racial, you know, gives extra spell power, which is also nice. Your trinket gives like 4.x extra k extra intellect, so like 4200 or 4500, I can't remember. I use double DPS trinkets, so I also get 5200 extra intellect from my other trinket if it procs. So combine all those together and it's a lot. Dark Soul will increase your mastery by adding, you know, 30% extra mastery on top of everything. And this is why if you use Dark Soul and then go into meta, it increases your damage a lot. Because meta scales with Metamorphosis, scales with mastery. So it normally increases your damage by 80%, like I told you before. But with Dark Soul combining, it can increase your damage by 170% for me. And if I get a buff from my Pella, which is 3k mastery, then it increases my damage by, I don't know, like 190% or something. It's really, really high at least. Or even maybe almost 2k. I mean 200%, that's what I meant. I'm screwing up. Anyways, let's go to defense and panic spells. So we see the soul well there, which if you click it, it gets you a Healthstone. That's actually the second thing you see. Healthstone heals you for 20% standard instantly, but I have the glyph that makes it hot, so it heals you over time, but it's 40%, so it's increased by 100% healing. And this is a great heal to use, and just use it a lot. And then you have Dark Regeneration, which is a talent pick. You don't have it standard, but it's my pick, and it heals you for 30% of your total HP, but also it increases your healing received by 25%. So that's really nice if your Pella can heal you, and you need like a small heal yourself, you're kind of in danger, then you pop that, your Pella heals you and you should be fine. Then Twilight Ward, this absorbs 80, 90k, 100k magic damage, something like that. It's not much, but it helps out, you know. It's like one, you know, you can kind of tank one Chaos Wave with it. I mean Chaos Bolt with it, not completely, but like a large portion of it. So I just pop it all the time. As soon as I can, I pop it kind of. And then you have Wall. It's actually called Unending Resolve. I mean, Unending Resolve. And it decreases your damage taken by 40% and also makes you immune for silences. So you can use it offensively or defensively. You can either use it in your burst if you don't want to get silence in your burst, or you could use it defensively to decrease damage taken. Then we go to the other abilities you see there. Dark Bargain is the first one, the middle one is Sacrificial Pact, and the last one is Soul Link. Now this is also a discussion point, as you kind of swap around these. I don't use the middle talent that much to be honest, because it's like a 400k shield that you get by sacrificing a portion of the HP of your demon, and I don't use it because I don't think it's worth it. Like 400k is not that much, and they, like other DPS classes, can destroy it quite easily, especially a burst class. Like, for example, if you have Mage Rogue, they do so much damage in the opener that I don't think it's really useful to have a 400k shield. So my choice normally is Dark Bargain, because you will be immune for all damage taken for 8 seconds. So you're basically God for 8 seconds, and then afterwards you will get a dot on you from the Dark Bargain, which is 50% of the damage taken over an X amount of seconds. But if your healer can heal you after your Dark Bargain ended, or you pop your Twilight Ward to absorb a bit of your own damage, then you should be fine. Actually, I never died because of the Dark Bargain dot yet, because I always get like healed afterwards or something. But Dark Bargain is really great versus Mage Rogue Healer in 3s, for example, because if they open on you and they burst really hard and they CC your healer to perfection, then you need something to absorb damage. It's just a last resort. It's a save button. It's like a bubble, or it's like a block. You know that you're gonna be safe if you still have Dark Bargain, you know. And with Sacrificial Pact you kinda know like I'm already kinda screwed and it helps me and I will stay alive a bit longer, but I might die. So it's really risky. And Dark Bargain, I just know I'm just keep Dark Bargain for a very long time. I try not to use it, but when I really need to, I use it and then I know I'm gonna survive. Soul Link, however, is also an option. And why, you might ask? Well, it's not, don't just use Soul Link as its own, you know, don't use it as its own thing. But if you combine it with other stuff, it's really good. For example, if you have a warrior hunter team and they do some cleave damage on you, or they go on you the whole time, then it's really nice to use it. So why? Because they have a lot of sustain damage and their class, their comp is not built for burst. I mean, they also do a lot of burst, but it's not as dangerous as Mage Rogue, for example. So you kind of need a way to absorb all the sustain damage. So what you could do is take the glyph Eternal Resolve, which gets rid of your wall thingy that absorbs 40% of the damage taken, but gives you a 10% damage reduction all the time. And if you combine it with Soul Link, which is basically you share 20% of your damage taken with your demon, so you have like a 20% damage reduction. So you already have a 30% damage reduction if you combine those. Then if you take the tank form glyph and you go into tank form if they go on you, then you have like a 50% damage reduction. So all the time. So not just, you know, when you panic, no, all the time. So you can tank a lot of sustained damage from the hunter and the warrior, for example, in threes. So that might be really useful. And I think I will play like that if they go on me a lot. The thing is, I play with the mage and they normally go on the mage, which is kind of understandable. So I just roll with Dark Bargain anyways. Then let's go to the last spell there. Then if you go into tank form, then the Twilight Ward becomes something else. You have 2 charges of a shield that absorb all damage taken. Actually not, yeah, all kinds of damage taken, but only to a certain amount. I think also like 100k or something. Then mobility, we have portal, sending up the portal and porting away, which is really the best thing ever. Gateway, which is now kind of nerfed, but it's still really great to use if you need to escape with your whole team to the other side of the map. Then you need to gate away. And with teleport, for example, you can use it if a warrior starts blade storming you. I teleport away. Then in meta you get Demonic Leap, which is just marvelous, you know. You jump away, and this is great to avoid also blade storms or rogues or annoying other classes, you know. Or actually you can use it defensively but also offensively. For example, if you can't get to the healer that you need to burst on, then you can just leap towards him and start bursting again. It's a really great spell. Then let's go to the other spells. Life Tap is really great to mention. Life Tap costs HP to use, but you will get a lot of HP back. So that's just great. I mean, you get a lot of mana back. So it costs HP, you get mana back. And if you spam Fel Flame all the time, then you need to Life Tap a lot. So I just put it on a keybind or something that you can use it a lot in arena if you really need to. Then Hell Funeral is a spell that you can use to heal your demon. If it gets destroyed or something, you can try to heal. Although Demonology Warlocks can instantly resummon their demon with thanks to Demonic Rebirth. But after you've done that once, then you can't do that anymore, and then you need to hard summon it. So try to heal it if you can, and also ask your healer to heal your demon. Then we have the tank form on the right thingy. That is basically a taunt that you can use in PvP, in PvE to taunt creatures with. So this was kind of it for now. It's already quite a long guide about the spells and abilities, when to use them, whatnot. I know it's kind of long, but that's because I wanted to combine both advanced and simple stuff. And let me just let me know what you think about it, if this is a right style for you. I hope this helps out, and if it didn't, then I'm sorry. More advanced stuff and more stuff in general is coming up, and hopefully also more useful stuff. This is still, you know, early stage of the guide. So see you guys next time. See you at part 3 of the guide. Morpheus out.